practitioner. Can you talk a little bit about the origins of Spot the Dog, and again, really what's behind the importance of using those cognitive interventions?
Spot the Dog is certainly one of my favorites. The origin, when it came back to, it's got to be 1990 or thereabouts, and working in a jail, and sort of, I guess my clinical mentor, Dr. Barb Armstrong, she was always this super practical individual, and she's really good and understood all the cognitive behavioral stuff. And, we learned about Mike and Baum way back in the early 90s and Beck and all those other things. And I got to give her credit is that her frustration with trying to educate our guys that were in prison on the cognitive behavioral stuff and trying to give them sort of the textbook names and all this other stuff was incredibly frustrating. And that's where she goes, let me make it real to you. And virtually everybody knows how to train a dog, or at least can understand how to train a dog. And we use that analogy to sort of establish the vocabulary of a basic, sequence of behaviors, the, technical terms, antecedents, stimuli, what your cognitions are, what the behavior is, what's the consequences. It's not just establishing that. I think one of the things that to me is probably the ultimate cool about Spot the Dog is it's a self-discovery journey for a client. And it doesn't matter whether the client is university educated or has grade 8 or even grade 5. They come to these conclusions through this exercise where they learn some incredibly valuable sort of lessons. That no matter how many times I tell somebody, the simple axiom that you're thinking is what causes your behavior and nothing else. To have somebody come up to that conclusion themselves and realize that, no, nobody makes me think anything. Nobody makes me, come to some conclusion or whatnot. It's entirely me, what I think. And whatever it is I think is what is really the cause of my action in the self-discovery process. Once they discover that, they can't go back. Mm-hmm. And even though they'd like to blame people, and we all do this, it doesn't have to be a correctional client. One of my favorites is that driver pissed me off while I'm driving. We're so easy to blame outside forces for our thinking, or our emotions, or our behaviors. As soon as we sort of admit that, no, everything is me and my responsibility, it opens the door to going, okay, well, then I can change that. And it gives them an incredible sense of, in the desistance language, agency. Mm-hmm. In old school, self-efficacy. Other terms are empowerment and all those things. It's about a belief and a sense that I can change me. And I'm not just a feather in the wind. That's one of the coolest things about Spot the Dog is it shows what causes my actions, who's in charge of my thinking and my internal cues, for lack of a better word, and who has the power to change it or direct it. And realizing that it's all me leaves me in a position of power. And I love seeing my clients recognize that. And even though they have to struggle with it on a day-to-day basis, that whole notion that I can change me, that I have that power, is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, relinquishing that external locus of control is huge.
Yep.
Yep. So at least as far as the risk needs responsivity model is concerned, we're not really trying to build a better mousetrap at this point. We know what works. We know adherence to those 3 principles will yield some pretty decent effect sizes when it comes to recidivism reduction. The issue, I believe, though, is that of implementation. Talk about your experiences with implementation struggles and what do you see behind that staff resistance to change?
The struggles are just incredible. I trying to bring this